there's no one else like him that at the time that I knew of, for sure.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of created a thing where a lot of kids are trying production on their own now. So I wouldn't be surprised if all throughout the suburbs of like Virginia and Maryland, there's all these other.
He was really good 4 or 5 years ago when I met him. He's just been doing it nonstop since then too. So it's like he's just gotten better and better.
Yeah, but he's like an extreme example of like a self-made, like if he didn't have the resources to get the software or hardware, he'd download it. Like, I mean, he had a custom PC that he built. It wasn't anything like, he just kind of shows that you don't need, even though he's got some amazing gear, you don't necessarily need all that stuff to produce a good result. You just have to have the drive to do it, you know?
Yeah. What happened with the audition then?
He didn't make the cut.
You know, at the time it was just Misha, Tom, and this other guy, and they were like 20 years old, and I was like 26 or something like that. And I was just not trying to hang out with 20-year-olds at the time.
Wow, it's like that.
The truth comes out.
Yeah, it was just like I was just at a different. I don't know. It was cool. They were great. I was like, wow, this is really talented. This is hard music, but I was just yeah.
I mean, they've evolved so much now. Like, they no longer have that previous singer. They have a new one.
Right. Yeah. So it's like they've gone
Periphery, as you know, now is in a more developed state than back
then. They didn't have Jake or Alex.
Or Matt.
Misha was just coming over to the guitar. He was a drummer first, from what I believe, and he was just starting to write his guitar stuff. Yeah. I went to the audition and it was like, maybe not.
So you guys kept in touch, and then you guys just linked up for the first record. How did that work?
He remained someone, because I remember hearing his music and feeling like beyond the production skills and all that stuff, like the songwriting was really good. He made musical choices that I thought were really solid. I liked his approach. So upon meeting him through that, like, we just kind of stayed in touch. I was touring in my band Reflux and all this stuff, but long story short, it got to the point where I was working on my album with another producer. It all went to shit. I didn't want to use any of it, and I was like not going to put out the Animals as Leaders album at all. And I was still friends with Misha, and I was just like, hey dude, do you want to like just retrack the album with me? Like, do you want to do it? Do you want to produce it? And he was like, sure. So I literally like went over to his apartment every day for like 2 or 3 weeks, and we just did it together, like collaboration style. Like I tracked the riffs in, he programmed all the drums, he'd have musical ideas for the arrangements. So it was very collaborative, and that's kind of what you hear on that first album.
In terms of songwriting, did you guys have the same ideology?
Oh dude, it was pretty eerie. Like, I remember tracking with him, like I didn't have to explain any of the riffs. Like he just knew exactly what should go where. So it was one of the most seamless musical collaborations I've ever had, for sure. We're just kind of on the same page with a lot of that stuff, you know?
So with the new album, I assume it's more of a band effort rather than just, 2 people.
Yeah. I mean, it's still like, with modern recording, it gets a bit weird just because, like, it's like, our drummer is tracked in some of the riffs because he can palm mute a little bit tighter than I can. Like, it's just a matter of what's going to get the best result. As far as the songwriting, yeah, it's, Naveen is actually he's the producer on the album, and we're doing the same thing. I have a ton of riffs that I've cataloged mentally. We're like, hey, let's try this for a song, and I'll track them in. We've got an electronic drum set, so like he'll fool around with some ideas, track in the MIDI. But it's basically we're trying to make it more collaborative, like using more of everyone's musical presence to like make it sound like a full band as opposed to a singular musical idea.
Have you guys started tracking yet, or?
Yeah. I have a handful of songs. Yeah. It's pretty cool. We're happy with it.
And what are the objectives for this record?
We just, as musicians, we've been in metal bands, extreme metal bands, and we've been touring in this band. We just know what we like and what we don't like, so we're going to use this as an opportunity to incorporate, whatever we felt was missing from the first album or whatever. I think we're trying to be a bit more concise and just kind of just having each song have a musical identity, a specific vibe or feel, and just I guess trying to write better songs. It's also our first time around as a band doing it, so it's still
it's like a trial. We almost didn't know what the songs were going to be like. We had an idea, but
yeah, we had tons of discussions about like Well, man, we're listening to a lot of electronic music lately. It would be cool if we did this, and all these talks, and talking about music is pretty like pointless at the end of the day. So upon completion of the first song, we're like laughing at all the conversations we felt like we needed to have about it, because like once we actually did a song, it was everything we had talked about, effortlessly.
Yeah, it just came out.
So I don't know. I think it'll obviously sound like us. There'll be some new stuff, but it's definitely Animals as Leaders, and it's cool. I'm happy with it so far.
What about personal objectives for you, Javier?
As far as the new album? I mean, same thing, just having, a little bit of input in song structure or melody. It's just being part of it, Like the first album was just him and Misha. Naveen and I weren't even involved. I mean, yeah, at all, really, as far as the recording. This one, it's cool. I mean, there's only so much each of us are going to be able to stick out individually in the album, so the idea is to kind of create this collaborative sound. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, kind of just going with it and trying to make something cool.
Seeing as the band's getting a lot of exposure, do you feel more pressure with this new album?
I was freaking out just because, like, when we did the first album, it wasn't anything anyone knew about. So there's total, freedom. There was no expectation. But now, a lot of people really liked the first album, and it created a weird sort of sense of obligation to, in a weird way, like continue in the direction that allowed people to like it in the first place. These are like kind of logical, It's logical to assume that, but it's also counterintuitive as far as a purely creative.
Holy fucking shit, that was loud.
Okay, what was I saying? What was I even talking about? There you go.
Fuck that guy.
I really forgot what I was talking about, though.
I do too, actually. I forgot what I asked. You were saying something about something being counterintuitive.
Well, like, okay, you make something, people like it, then all of a sudden you're considering what they like in the new music you want to make. But that isn't necessarily the best way to make music. So I know I was going through a lot of roundabout, discussions in my head about, well, like, it seems that people really like these parts of the songs, and we should really, this kind of stuff, which is not really the best way to set out about, making honest music that you just feel like you want to make at that time. Mm-hmm. But like I said, once we started making this stuff, we actually have songs we can listen to. It's all that insecurity or consideration has kind of gone out the window. Like, we're confident in the musical idea we want to put forward, and we're totally doing it. It's chill.
Right. So let's talk about Tram. The new record comes out, or the debut record comes out on the 26th of June. What sparked that?
It was meeting Adrian. We got off of Summer Slaughter, I believe, last year, and through a friend, he got in contact with Adrian, and we were just gonna go hang out and jam with him for a day. Tosin started playing some riffs, Adrian started just soloing over it, and it was cool.
It was like not supposed to be a new band, it was just supposed to be like, hey, here's another musician in LA, we could potentially do some. It was actually a drummer friend of mine who was gonna have us do trio, like jazz trio gigs. So it was like, cool, he's already in LA, we got off tour, we linked up with him, and we instantly just started writing music. I started playing ideas that I had, and then he just started playing over them, Javier's playing, and then like literally every day following, like we would go over to his house.
For a month, and then, it was like a month, we would just go every day. The following month, we were like, all right, let's go record it. We had songs in mind. We hit up Eric Moore, he drove down, met us at the studio, and that's where we met him. It's like, recorded the album, recorded drums, really. Eric left after 3 days. We recorded for like another week.
I mean, the whole thing was very seat of our pants. Like, it kind of happened to us where it was like, man, we got a lot of material. Like, we should totally record. Well, we need a drummer. Well, we hit up. So we literally meet our drummer during the first session, like he was saying. So the Tram thing was really unexpected, but it kind of was like, I felt like the music deserved, life, on a recording. So we just went ahead and did that. So
word on the streets that you guys hit up Thomas Pridgeon first. Is that true?
We hit up Thomas, and he was gonna do it, but like, we'll say that scheduling conflicts didn't allow for it to go down.
Yeah.
But then, Eric, I think Eric is the perfect drummer. Like, looking back on, you know, if I had the choice of the two, I just was less familiar with Eric's playing, but he suited the varieties of dynamics and styles on the disc, I think, in a way that's perfect. And he's an awesome dude, so we made a new friend and got the perfect drummer for the gig, so it all worked out.
A little off topic, but what are the ingredients to a successful band in your opinion?
Originality.
Not always. Do you want, like,
I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, sorry. It depends on, like, I mean, you can go gimmicky and, like.
I think you could answer the question in as many ways as we could if you think about it, you know?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are popular that there isn't one answer. But I think if you want to end up, I just know for myself, I've been in other bands where I was less happy, and this is a band where I specifically wanted to have it be as close to my musical ideal as possible. So no musical, like, rules. It's like, oh, dude, you can't do that part because it's not metal enough, or it's not whatever. Or it's like, you can't wear that on stage because it's not metal enough, or like, you can't, like, we don't have anything like that. So I think, so internally it creates like a situation where everyone's like, you know, invested 100% without feeling like they have to edit themselves, as well as like the music, you know, if you're allowed to use any creative idea you want, it also facilitates, you know, being gratified musically. And then hopefully that translates into people hearing the music and thinking that it's honest and actually represents who we are. These are kind of the, like, spiritual factors of being successful or something. I mean, I could be like, get a girl with, like, big boobs and have her be the lead singer and sound like what's popular on the radio. Then you could be successful.
Well, are there bands that just are completely doing it right?
Other bands?
I mean,
you know, out there right now.
Of course there are.
What are some of those bands?
I think Meshuggah is like a completely honest band. Like, there are people just catching on to records that they put out, you know, a decade ago, and they're like very much only concerned with what they want to do. They've kind of gone against trends as like a rule or something. And even, I don't know, I just think they're an excellent example of a band who's really concerned with making music that they like.
What do you think about bands like the Deer Hunter? I know the Periphery guys are really into them.
I haven't heard much of their music, but I've heard good things. I think there was a potential of doing some shows with them too. Yeah, I haven't heard much of their music, but apparently they're pretty good.
I hardly listen to metal. So
they're not a metal band.
They're like, they're really good.
They play with Circa and stuff like that.
Yeah, they play with Circa a lot.
They're more of like an experimental indie band, right?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, how was the Circa, how was your experience on the Circa tour? Were there moments that stand out to you?
We might have had the most fun on that tour that we...
Like, in my life.
And it didn't really have that much to do with, like, playing instruments.
It was yeah, I mean, the tour was awesome.
Yeah, Circa's huge.
Circa's huge.
It's like Beatles mania. People adore, like, it was really awesome to see that level of adoration. Like, the kids at their shows were beaming pure love at that band. It was just like...
Some of the shows, you know, they might have... It was not that it was hard to, like, win over the crowd. Like, we'd had really good shows and, you know, did well on their tour. But when Circa would go on, it was like, who cares who went on before?
Like, no one played before.
No one played. Their show is just so epic that it was like...
So on a lot of levels, it was really, like, cool for us to see a band, you know, just doing that well, like, in a way that isn't necessarily mainstream. Like, I think they have fans who have been listening for years and will continue to listen for years. And they're really cool guys. Like, they haven't succumbed to being in, you know, a successful band. Like, they're
amazing,
very down to earth. They sound awesome. Anthony's a great singer and songwriter. So, like, on a lot of levels, that was, like, just, you know, it was, like, an opportunity to learn, you know, and kind of see where, like, you know, or just imagine what we'd want to be like if we ever got to that point. And then, you know, the shows were all, like, really high caliber venues, and they were all packed out. So that was awesome. Yeah. So it was an awesome experience. Like, it was something that was kind of, like, kicked around before it ever happened, and it was like, probably won't happen, you know.
Were you guys sharing a bus with Dredge?
Yeah.
Dredge.
That was awesome.
They're another really awesome band that, like, I've really got to like fall in love with their music through seeing them live every night. And they're veterans. You know, they've been touring longer than we've been a band and everything. Like they're still evolving. You know, their new stuff sounds different. So like it was just cool to see people who were like really good at what they did, who really cared about it on a level that I think that really was centered on the music more than anything else. And Dread sharing a bus with them has been the best like bus split we've ever had. It was just like who could party like
we didn't
hardest,
yeah
you know?
we didn't we were all like worried, like I wonder if they're very chill and this, you know, it's gonna be boring. It was the first day that it was like signs of it's gonna be a rager for the most part. It was fun. It was great. I love that tour. I love those guys.
Tours,
So you guys got a lot of stuff coming up. I know you got the headlining tour with Intronaut.
Right.
Stoked for the first headlining tour, I'm assuming.
Yeah, long time coming.
It's gonna be cool to play more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of our fans have kind of been. We'll do these larger tours that are opportunity for us to play, you know, larger rooms or to new people, but we're usually like, you know, second or first, so we don't play very long. So the headlining tour is something that's been, I guess, a lot of people have been wanting to see a legit set. So it'll be a chance to come out. We'll even play some new songs. And,
When does the record come out?
We don't have a date yet since
you're still in the studio.
Yeah,
they're shooting for it.
you know, maybe like late fall or winter or something like that.
I like don't pay attention.
And then you have the BT BAM tour coming up in Europe.
Right.
Yeah. Our first time in Europe is Animals as Leaders, which is, and Between the Bear and Me is like the perfect band. We felt like to play with them is like to make so much sense. They're also another band that they took us out when we were like, you know, it was like our first tour actually. They took us out, which was really awesome of them because we didn't really have any show history to like show that we'd be worth putting on a bill.
Yeah.
But it was totally a really solid, you know, thing for them to do for us, and you know we've grown a little bit since then, and now we get to go out and play with them again. They've you know put out an EP and all this stuff, so it'll be cool just to reconnect with them, and their fans are basically like
Our fans.
you know I think the fan base appreciates what we do as well, so it's like a no-brainer to be playing with them.